It is one of America's greatest mysteries. What happened to three men after they pulled off the most daring prison break in 1962? Only the worst criminals were sent to Alcatraz, and for 29 years, it was the most secure federal prison in the country.
The final hours before dawn on June 12, 1962, revealed one of the most tantalizing enigmas in American criminal history. Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin had vanished into the night from Alcatraz, a prison thought impenetrable. Their makeshift escape, crafted from ingenuity, patience, and determination, would come to symbolize both the human spirit's audacity and the chilling uncertainty of their unknown fate. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. Deep within cell block, the trio had over months chiseled out ventilation ducts that led to a seldom used utility corridor. The noise of their labor was masked by Morris's accordion during music hour. By the time they struck, the holes were wide enough and the path had been mapped meticulously. Behind the facade of human heads sculpted from papier-mâché, soap, and real hair, lying atop rumpled blankets, their bed-check ruse worked flawlessly. Guards dutifully passed through, never suspecting their absence. Their escape unfolded across several daring stages. First, from the corridor, they climbed a ventilation shaft to the roof, smashing through a fan into the prison yard. From there, they descended approximately 50 feet via a kitchen vent pipe, then scaled two barbed wire fences. Their destination was the northeast shore near the power plant, one of the few blind spots in Alcatraz's surveillance grid. There, a raft sewn together from raincoat rubber awaited. Paddles of plywood and screws accompanied them. With their gear in tow, they slid into the frigid San Francisco Bay around 10 p.m. The morning discovery of their escape had all the hallmarks of theatrical precision. Dummy heads revealed the deception only when meals were missed. By then, the men were already presumed to be south of Angel Island or farther. An intense search followed. The Coast Guard discovered a paddle and a wallet wrapped in plastic with personal information belonging to the Anglin brothers. Raincoat shreds and a deflated life jacket washed ashore. Still no bodies, no signs of survivors. The FBI, after exhaustive investigation, concluded in 1979 that the escapees probably drowned. The waters surrounding Alcatraz are notoriously cold and the tides run fast, lethal for unprepared swimmers in June. Remains were not found, but drift patterns and debris were consistent with a broken raft and lost personal items. Yet this conclusion fell short of definitive closure. That uncertainty has left a persistent undercurrent of speculation and hope. In 2013, a letter addressed to the San Francisco police, allegedly from John Anglin, claimed, "My name is John Anglin. I escaped from Alcatraz. Yes, we all made it that night, but barely." It continued, revealing that Morris died in 2008 and Clarence in 2011, while John himself was suffering from cancer and wished to turn himself in for treatment. The FBI could not verify the letter's authenticity, and the writer's identity remains unconfirmed. Over the years, eyewitness accounts have emerged hinting that the brothers survived much longer. One of the Anglin sisters reported strange phone calls filled with breathing, and anonymous Mother's Day flowers were sent annually until the siblings' mother passed away. At funerals, two mysterious women appeared, descendants, or perhaps accomplices. Family members also say postcards and holiday greetings arrived in the years after the escape. The theory that they might have been picked up by outside allies found some credibility in witness statements. A boat spotted near Alcatraz shortly after midnight, followed by a stolen Chevrolet seen in Northern California, suggested a planned extraction. One insider, Thomas Kent, told America's Most Wanted in 1993 that a girlfriend of Clarence was waiting with a vehicle to expedite their journey. A man named John Leroy Kelly, in a deathbed affidavit, claimed to have helped ferry the trio to Seattle, and then, chillingly, to have killed them for ransom. But no bodies were ever found, nor was any financial trail of a payout. In the late 2010s, a photograph surfaced showing two men in Brazil, possibly the Anglins, in the 1970s. Their unknown nephews turned to modeling experts, including AI-based facial recognition techniques in 2020, who suggested the resemblance could be real. But the Brazil photograph remained unverified by the U.S. Marshals, partly due to concerns that the photo's source, one Fred Brizzi, was unreliable, or worse, fabricating evidence. Scientific analyses have alternately bolstered and undermined both survival and drowning theories. Mythbusters replicated the raft and proved it could traverse the bay and reach shore, but not necessarily that it likely stayed intact. Delft University tidal modeling in 2014 showed that had the men launched around 11:30 p.m., they could feasibly land at Horseshoe Bay near the Golden Gate. Any later, their chances dropped dramatically. Contrastingly, historian John Martini noted that an actual inflatable tube had been found destroyed near Alcatraz, and that prison records misrepresented the presence of dangerous predators like sharks. More tellingly, John Paul Scott, another inmate who attempted to swim to shore earlier that same year, actually made it, demonstrating that escape via water, though treacherous, was not impossible. More recently, a 2024 memoir by Ken Widner and Mike Lynch titled Alcatraz: The Last Escape has delved into the brothers' hardscrabble childhoods. Their upbringing in poverty in the Deep South honed their resourcefulness and mechanical skills, qualities they carried into Alcatraz. The book explores new theories about their extraction and possible life abroad. It references the Brazil photo and sketches a broader narrative of their fate. The U.S. Marshals still list the trio on their wanted list, and their file remains open until 2030, the year when, if alive, the fugitives would be 100 years old. Leads continue to trickle in. Sightings, family notes, travel records, and every so often a new clue, like the Anglin letter or the Brazil photo, ignites public interest anew. So what happened? One version reads as a tragic failure, a beautifully executed escape undone by the violent tides, icy waters, and brute chance. Their raft broke, they drowned, and the ocean claimed them without a trace. The other version recalls a quiet victory, a journey across the bay, rendezvous with accomplices, and eventual safety. A path crossing Mexico to Brazil or Canada. Lives rebuilt in anonymity. Their story has deep cultural resonance. Opened in 1934, Alcatraz housed notorious figures like Al Capone and Robert "Birdman" Stroud. Its closure in 1963 was prompted by the high operational cost and crumbling infrastructure, shamefully highlighted by the Morris Anglin escape. After only 29 years, the prison that once claimed to be escape-proof became the stage for one of the most legendary disappearances in U.S. history. President Trump's recent suggestion to revive Alcatraz as a prison, complete with sharks patrolling the waters, sparked laughter and reminders that people have escaped before. In reality, the waterway is shark-free and cold. Any assertion that Alcatraz was unbreachable is a myth. Morris and the Anglins challenged that myth head-on. Among the 36 inmates who attempted 14 escapes from Alcatraz, most were even less fortunate. Many were shot, recaptured, or drowned. Only Morris and the Anglins remain unaccounted. Their plan involved intelligence, mechanical cleverness, and resolve. A story of planning worthy of spies and novelists. The unanswered question, perish or persist, haunts the narrative. If they died, their effort remains noble yet wasted, reminding us of nature's overpowering force. If they lived, then their story becomes one of redemption, reinvention, and silent freedom. And that is why theirs is not just a prison break, but an enduring American myth. In every retelling, whether in documentaries, books, AI prompts, or family lore, there is a yearning for the unknown. We chase that photograph from Brazil. We analyze title charts. We replay their ingenuity in reenactments. With each new detail or claim, the story shifts slightly, but never loses its grip. To this day, their legacy stands at the intersection of myth and matter. The dummy heads, the paddle, the wallet, they are artifacts of a violent curiosity. The letter from an old man facing death or the faded photograph in a tropical field, these are notes in an evolving mystery. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't whether they survived, it's why their story still matters 6 decades later. Because it asks, even if the odds are stacked, even if the plan seems impossible, will we still dare? Morris and the Anglins dared. They slipped past lights and fences. They entered the bay weaving through currents born before them. And then the world went silent. Their fate might never be known. And perhaps that's fitting. The greatest escapes are those that leave nothing. No bodies, no evidence, no answer. Just the echo of what might have been. The Alcatraz escape of 1962 continues to resonate not simply because of what occurred that night, but because of everything that has emerged in the years since. While the immediate facts are known, 3 prisoners vanished, leaving behind decoys and a trail of handmade equipment. The surrounding decades have fed the mythos. From the remote swamps of Florida to the quiet backroads of South America, the mystery has evolved into something more than a criminal case. It's become a cultural puzzle absorbing generations of speculation, conspiracy, and even admiration. But to fully appreciate the complexity of the Alcatraz mystery, one must dive deeper into the psychological makeup of the escapees, the post-war American penal system, the role of surveillance and suspicion, and the eerie silence that follows a perfect escape. Frank Morris wasn't an ordinary inmate. His IQ tested above 130, making him among the smartest men ever held on Alcatraz. He had been raised in foster care, essentially abandoned by his parents, and had spent the better part of his life navigating the juvenile and adult correctional systems. A loner with a profound ability to think several steps ahead, Morris was no brute criminal. He had refined tastes and read voraciously. What set him apart wasn't violence or impulsivity, it was precision. By the time he landed on Alcatraz Island, he had already escaped from multiple facilities. The rock was meant to be his final lockbox. The Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, were different from Morris but no less formidable. Raised in a poor farming family of 13 children in Georgia and Florida, they were conditioned by hardship. The family moved with the seasons, picking fruit and vegetables wherever there was work. They knew how to build with their hands, to fix engines, and to adapt quickly to change. They didn't have Morris's mental acuity in a traditional sense, but they possessed something else: resilience. That kind of resilience becomes invaluable when you're planning to disappear off the face of the earth. One overlooked aspect of their escape is how much discipline it would have taken to even attempt such a thing. Most inmates fantasize about escape. Few follow through with anything beyond words. For Morris and the Anglins to labor nightly over their escape route, slowly peeling away walls, managing the psychological strain of pretending normalcy while plotting the impossible, suggests a kind of mental fortitude that rarely gets recognized. These were not reckless men throwing themselves into fate. They were calculating every detail, every screw, every angle. Then there's the psychology of escape itself. What happens in the mind of a man who has lived for years inside a 6 by 9 foot concrete cell, cut off from warmth, intimacy, or unpredictability? Alcatraz was designed to erase identity. Inmates were not just numbered, they were disconnected from human senses, no contact with nature, minimal personal belongings, bland food, no privacy. To plan an escape under such circumstances is to revive one's identity in the most rebellious way. It's not merely an act of evasion, it's an assertion of personhood. Adding to this was the mythic reputation of Alcatraz itself. It wasn't just a prison, it was a symbol of absolute control. Situated in the middle of one of the most beautiful bays in the world, surrounded by deadly currents, Alcatraz represented a challenge to anyone with a streak of defiance. The daily torture of seeing the city of San Francisco, twinkling just out of reach, became a kind of existential bait. Many inmates later described the sound of laughter and music from the mainland wafting through fog, an unbearable reminder of the life they once had. The urge to escape Alcatraz wasn't just about freedom, it was about resisting a system that told you unequivocally that you were beyond redemption. And yet, the escape of 1962 didn't provoke mass panic. It provoked fascination. Part of the reason lies in how the escapees were portrayed. None of them were murderers or sadists. They were bank robbers and thieves. Not innocents, but not monsters. Their story fits the classic underdog mold. Underestimated men, trapped in an inescapable prison, outwitting their captors through sheer creativity. Even the guards, humiliated though they were, expressed a degree of reluctant admiration. The escape was clean, clever, and bloodless. Culturally, this narrative emerged at a pivotal time. America in the early 1960s was on the cusp of transformation. The civil rights movement was gaining momentum. Young people were questioning authority. The military-industrial complex was coming under scrutiny. Against that backdrop, the idea of 3 men successfully defying the ultimate institution of state control struck a chord. It wasn't just a prison break, it was a metaphor. Then came Hollywood. The Clint Eastwood film Escape from Alcatraz, released in 1979, etched the story into American consciousness. Eastwood's portrayal of Morris as stoic and calculating, cool under pressure, further romanticized the escape. In the film, the final shot shows Morris emerging on the far shore, alive, victorious, silent. That image, more than any photograph or forensic document, cemented public belief that they made it. Once the story entered popular culture, it became difficult to pry myth from reality. But Alcatraz also represents a deeper kind of mystery, one that challenges our notions of finality. In most criminal narratives, there's a sense of closure. The villain is caught, the body is found, the case is solved. Alcatraz defies that. It refuses to provide a satisfying ending. This unsolved escape gnaws at the edge of logic, forcing us to sit with the uncomfortable idea that some questions have no answers. What if they lived? The implications are profound. It means that 3 convicts, armed with nothing but handmade tools and determination, succeeded where others failed. It means that they not only escaped one of the most secure prisons in the world, but eluded law enforcement for decades. It means they carved out lives under assumed identities, possibly raised families, paid taxes, watched the moon landing, grew old, and perhaps died peacefully, all while the world kept searching. And what if they died? That too is powerful. It would mean that the effort, the planning, the ingenuity, the risk, ended in the most silent kind of failure, being swallowed by the bay. It would mean they were ghosts of ambition, undone by a tide or a misstep. That too is a haunting narrative. It reminds us that nature doesn't care about genius, that the ocean, unfeeling and vast, might have claimed their last breath with the same indifference it holds for all secrets. One element that rarely gets attention is the impact the escape had on prison reform. The vulnerability exposed by the Alcatraz breach shook confidence in high-security incarceration. Alcatraz was closed a year later, and while that decision had been under consideration due to cost, the timing felt symbolic. If Alcatraz could be breached, what prison was truly secure? The escape fueled broader discussions about rehabilitation, the conditions of incarceration, and the morality of solitary confinement. It asked, does punishment make people better, or just more desperate? The escape also became a blueprint for others. Across the world, prisoners studied the details of Morris's escape route, using it as a kind of how-to manual. Prison designers reviewed ventilation systems, tool access, and guard rotation. For a while, Alcatraz wasn't just a cautionary tale. It was a playbook. But perhaps the most compelling legacy of the escape lies in how it has been kept alive, not by government or media, but by ordinary people. Tourists visiting the Alcatraz Museum still stand in front of the cells once occupied by Morris and the Anglins, whispering theories. School children write essays imagining what the fugitives did next. Conspiracy forums dissect the 2013 letter. Families debate over Thanksgiving dinner whether the Brazil photo looks real. In a world increasingly driven by surveillance and data, the mystery of Alcatraz offers a rare refuge, a place where doubt still lives. It's telling that even the U.S. Marshals Service, a law enforcement body not known for sentimentality, refuses to close the case. Not officially. As long as there's no body, there's still a possibility. That in itself is extraordinary. Over 60 years have passed. Morris would be well into his 90s, and yet, the manhunt continues. Quietly, patiently. As if the story must remain suspended just in case. The Alcatraz escape speaks to something primal in the human spirit, the will to overcome confinement. Whether it's bars and chains or societal roles, or the mundane rhythms of daily life, there is a part of every person that yearns for escape. And when someone actually manages it, when they slip the net and vanish into fog, we are transfixed. Not just because of what they did, but because of what it says about what's possible. The real question isn't whether Morris and the Anglins survived. The real question is, what do we want to believe? Do we want to believe in tragedy or triumph, in fate or in freedom? That's the heart of the Alcatraz mystery. It's not just a question of fact, it's a mirror of ourselves. So the waters of San Francisco Bay continue to ripple quietly, holding their secrets. Tour boats circle the island, children peer into rusted cells, and somewhere in some old drawer or dusty attic, there may still be a clue. A postcard, a photograph, a voice on an old cassette tape. Perhaps we'll find it one day. Or perhaps we already have, and just don't know it yet. But until then, the Alcatraz mystery lives on. Not because it defies answers, but because it dares us to keep asking. Somewhere beyond the fog-laced shoreline, the legend drifts like sea mist, elusive, ungraspable. It challenges historians, tempts skeptics, and enthralls dreamers. Whether Morris and the Anglins perished or persisted, they carved their legacy into history's margins, leaving behind not certainty, but a whispered invitation to wonder. What if they truly got away? If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on the Alcatraz mystery? What do you think truly happened? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.